Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, where you can awaken your mind to clarity and success even in today's life challenges. We're here to provide insights and solutions that will help you live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hello, everybody. This is Joanne Victoria with an amazing episode of the Sanity Project podcast. You are here to discover a life of clarity, confidence, sanity, and entrepreneurial success. Our guest today is Alinka Rutkowska. Alinka is the CEO of Leaders Press, a USA Today and Wall Street Journal best-selling press, where she creates books for entrepreneurs from scratch and launches them to bestseller with a 100% success rate. Welcome to the show, Alinka Rutkowska.
Thank you so much for having me, Joanne. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I am so grateful that you are here because I know that there are numerous listeners who want to write a book and just haven't got the wherewithal in their minds to sit down and know when to begin. So I've looked over your website and it looks as though your menu, I'll call it a menu, you cover everyone. You cover people who have a big budget, a large, medium-sized budget, and a small budget. And I think that's important to the people who are listening. Some of them have boatloads of money and can get the money to do the big stuff, but you have provided everyone who's listening with an opportunity. So what I read, and I think I read clearly, is that you're dealing with business books only. Is that correct?
We're dealing with business books mainly, but we also open it up to nonfiction books. And we just set up a fiction imprint, but that will be for manuscripts only, whereas the nonfiction books we can also ghostwrite.
So how do people find you? How do they talk to you? What are their fears? Even though they're not writing the book themselves, they have interviews with your people, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but they're still, how do they handle the fears of the client?
Well, they're usually handled during their first calls with our team. And many of the people that we talk to are pretty much already clear that they do want to get their book out. We don't deal with too many doubts, although I know that some major ones are maybe the imposter syndrome, or aren't there enough books out there already? Why should I write one? And the why is a big thing. The why should you write a book? Or maybe you shouldn't. So why should you write a book? The two main reasons that authors who come to us have or mention is, one reason is they want a book to increase their authority, build their credibility, and leave a legacy. So that's something that we would call a legacy piece, mainly. For example, we did a book for the co-founder of DHL International for DHL's 50th anniversary. So he really wanted to tell his story. And then the second why, or second reason why people want a book, is to grow their business or to grow their, consulting or coaching business. And that's because a book is a fantastic lead generation tool and lead conversion tool. It's a great lead generation tool because when it's on Amazon or on your website, people look for answers to their questions, and a properly optimized book will pop up on Amazon in the search results, or on other retailers in search results, on Google. And it's a great lead conversion tool because once people read your book and then hop on a call with you, then they treat you completely differently. They, in their eyes, you are not just one of the many people they're evaluating for the job. You're the authority because you wrote the book.
You are the expert.
Exactly.
Trust has been established.
Yes.
Via the book. And from what I understand, you already have 198 authors on the USA Today bestseller list.
That's correct.
I bet you had a celebration when that happened.
Well, I'm waiting for 200. I need two more.
I was going to, two, a number that people accept as being, a talisman. So,
Yeah.
I saw some of the titles that you had, some of the authors that you had. Is that part of your contract that you are allowed to tell the public that this book was ghostwritten?
Well, you can't really tell from our website if the book was ghostwritten or not, because we also work from manuscript. So there are people who wrote their own manuscripts and we publish them. And some people do not want to be listed on the website for this reason. They don't want to admit that they had the book ghostwritten, and so they are not on the website. So you can imagine that there's a whole pool of people that just don't have that visibility there, but that's for their personal reasons.
So I know that some people would probably say, well, they're not going to get my tone. They're not going to understand who I am. They're not going to think it's me. Do you have comments like that coming from your prospects, clients?
Yes, a lot. The way we work with them is we explain that we're going to create several samples of the first chapter to really get their voice. So usually there's about 3 samples, and that's after we first get a specification of how they want the book to be written: formal, informal, funny, serious. Once we get that, we create 3 samples. They choose one. Maybe there's something that they really like in one, and then we just need to fine tune something. And once we get their voice, then we're going to write a quarter of the book. They will check that. And, if that works, we're going to write the rest of the book. So it's a collaborative process to get their voice the way they want it to be. And, if you're not really great with words, I think you're showing your readers respect when you hire a professional who will write it rather than torture your readers with some terrible English that you might have.
I agree with you. I totally think that your service is phenomenal. Now, when did you decide to do this? I mean, you didn't get up one day when you were 7 years old and said, I'm going to start this ghostwriting opportunity for people. I mean, what happened in your life that made you go on this direction, on this path?
I think, it was passion. And I think I was showing the characteristics of somebody who would want to do this when I was very young. Maybe not 7, but probably like 12 years old. I decided to compete with the school newspaper by creating my own. So I created the school newspaper. I wrote the first issue all by myself, and then my classmates would say, hey, can I contribute this piece? Can I write this? Can I write that? And I was like, yeah, it's less work for me. And so I had them do all that, ghostwrite the newspaper for me, really.
Right.
their names were there, of course. And then I would, that's when computers, we first started using them at home. And I really quickly learned to type with 10 fingers. So I could really quickly, they would deliver the content to me written on a piece of paper, because those were the 90s in Poland. And I would type that all up, format it, print it, and photocopy it, because my parents were university professors, so IT. So we had access to all the equipment, and I had it all at home. So I could print it, photocopy it, staple it together, and then I'd go around school and sell it. And so that was my first entrepreneurial venture.
Amazing. I know people are listening going, why don't my kids do that?
I know.
Yeah.
I think that too about my own.
I know, but we can only do what we can do. So this service that you provide, which I'm totally impressed and amazed with, it's just totally satisfying to an author to know that they have an opportunity to have you help them write a book and also have it published by Simon & Schuster. So tell us about that relationship.
Simon & Schuster is our distribution partner. So the way it works is that the books that we decide are worthy, we will also upload them to Simon & Schuster's dashboard about 6 months in advance before they come out. so that they get the proper attention of the sales reps. This is a whole traditional route that is part of our process for most of our books. So it's really exciting because through this distribution partnership, we are able to provide what a traditional publisher provides. It's the main reason why people would go the traditional publishing route, to be able to get their books in bookstores. And so having this distribution partnership allows us to offer the same type of treatment that is a big deal for many authors.
It is. I know. My books were self-published, and because I had no way of getting anybody else to publish the books. But I know that some people are really attached to having a name distributor, i.e., Simon and Schuster, to be a part of the plan. And because they want their books in stores, but they also want to have that legitimacy. They think that if it's not backed by a huge publishing company, that they're not good enough. Again, there's that second level of people who have the first level problems that might come to you for their first interview. So what do you think is the reason for your success, and why do people come to you?
Well, I think there's right now, it's almost as if you don't have a book, your position is weaker than the competitors that do have a book. Just your perceived authority, and you're not any smarter after you've written a book than you were before. Like, you have the same knowledge in your head, but to the potential client, as we mentioned earlier, you are the authority because you wrote the book. And if you're a best-selling author, even more. And if you're a USA Today best-selling author, then you're the ultimate authority, whether it makes sense or not. But yes, if that's what will get the doors open, then I think it makes sense to do that. And a lot of people have noticed that it opens a lot of doors. If you're a speaker, you can increase your speaking fees. If you're looking for investors, you want to go into those meetings with a book, because the investors will remember you and they want to know everything about you. So if you give them the book, that's like opening the door to your mind, because you share a lot in it. And, the lead generation, the authority building that we were talking about. So there's a lot of stories that people will tell you. One of our clients said that, I asked, well, but why? Why are you doing this book? We want to know why. And he said, well, 20 years ago, he was talking to a prospect, and the prospect said, well, everything you're saying makes a lot of sense, and it's about the same that this other potential supplier told me. And the only difference is that she has a book, so I'm going to go with her. Wow. And 20 years later, he still couldn't get over it, and he said, now I'm going to have a book. Now I'm going to do this book, because he just couldn't get over that rejection because he wasn't an author and his competitor was. But this story also shows you the power of the book.
Yes, the power of the book. Another great title for a book, right? If it hasn't already been taken. And so tell us about how you choose the titles, because titles are not copywritten. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
So you choose titles that, have to have emotion, have to grab the buyer, because there are so many books available. Amazon is my friend right now, certainly after the pandemic when I couldn't go back to the library. So I now everything I read is on my Kindle. And so I go to Amazon searching for what I want, and I just see some very similarly titled books. And I'm going, what's going to get people's attention? How do you determine the title? Do you have a committee for that as well? Or does your client provide you with a title that they think is going to work for them, or what?
The minority have titles. Most don't really know what it's going to be. We have a system for titles. So we definitely wanted to be catchy. We wanted to pass the Starbucks test. The Starbucks test is when you're standing at the end of the line in Starbucks, and you're telling somebody, you're having a little chat, and you're saying, well, I'm doing a book. Oh, what's the title? And you tell them you want them to remember that title by the time they get to the front of the line, so that when they are leaving the coffee shop and meeting another person, they can actually repeat it. So it's important that it's memorable and catchy, but you also want to have a subtitle, and the subtitle should have keywords that people look for. So if you provide a solution to a problem people have, we want to make sure that the right keywords are in the title, so that it pops on Amazon when people search. It's the title that has to be catchy. The subtitle needs to explain what the book is about. For example, a recently published book that is on the USA Today bestseller list is Game On. Okay, so maybe Game On doesn't really explain very well what it's about, but then the subtitle is Leaders Who Last. So now you get an idea of what the book is about. And that's just one example of the many books that we do. And then we can go more granularly into the type of titles that you can use. I have a whole masterclass on titles. So I don't know how much we want to dive in here, but it's it's both an art and a science.
Yeah, it is. And people forget that subtitle is prime. It's prime space and prime words, because that's what it explains what the book is about.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with, when I first started and made my decision to write a book, I did work with a book coach, and I would not have gotten through without her. That was probably before you were doing this business full bore. And I remember it was so difficult to do this, because it was so much a part of me that I was sharing, even though it was a business book. It was, I created stories based on people that I knew, and I was one of them, blah, blah, blah. But it was like, how do you get the words in order that makes sense? I mean, today you even have Grammarly and so many resources now that people can use for their writing and spelling and stuff like that. But once I started writing, I haven't stopped. Although I don't write books anymore. I just write a lot of articles, a lot of blog posts, and that makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
My mind is wandering here because I'm going, I think I have another book I should talk to Alinka about sometime soon. So when you say you're doing nonfiction now, what do you mean? Because business books are nonfiction, so I don't.
Yeah, so we were born as a business publisher, but we've expanded, or we are expanding into other nonfiction. So it doesn't have to be only business. We can do some self-improvement, self-help as well. Memoirs we've been doing since the beginning as well. They don't have to be business. So just any nonfiction really where we can create a book via interviews.
Yeah, I think this self-improvement, I don't know. Is there anything new in self-improvement? Well, I'm looking at memoirs. I mean, memoirs as a category, because even some of the big published authors who have written mysteries and so on and so forth, they're now creating memoirs. So is memoirs a thing right now?
Well, I don't know if it's a thing right now. It's definitely a thing for the author who's writing the memoir, because it's one of the best ways to immortalize yourself.
Okay.
So after you're gone, then there will be a version of who you were written by you as opposed to somebody else. So the way you want to be remembered, I think that's powerful. And you can use that for many reasons as well. So we were talking about potential investors. If somebody's going to invest in your business, they want to know everything about you. If you write a memoir, that's a great way for them to get to know you.
Okay, so talk to us also about your leaderpress.com gift that you're going to give our listeners, because I think that they would appreciate it, and I want you to talk a little bit about it.
Okay. So it's leaderspress.com/discover. When you go there, you'll be able to go through a 1-minute quiz that will identify what type of book is best for you. Remember, we talked about lead generation books, legacy pieces. So you're going to find out which one you should write, only 1 minute. And you'll also get an audiobook, because I know you like to listen. You're going to get an audiobook of Outsource Your Book, which takes you through the 17 steps necessary to get any book done. This book was written based on an article in Entrepreneur Magazine. And you're going to get all that when you go to leaderspress.com/discover.
I hope everybody listened to that. I'm going to certainly put it on Alinka's page on my website so that you can go and get this super free gift. But the very fact that Alinka Rutkowska exists, in my opinion, is a gift because of the service she provides. For those of you who have been afraid up till now to even consider writing a book on your own, i.e., not with Alinka, change your mind. Change your mind. Seriously. Find her. You can email her at alinka@authorremake.com. Sounds just, spelled AUTHOR, remake, REMAKE.com. Or you can go to her website and see all of the choices you have, from hors d'oeuvres to a buffet. She's providing a buffet of information for you. And I know that, the service she provides is just enormous. I was in awe when I was reading everything on her website, because it's like, look at this. You don't have to even think. You can just call her up, talk to her people, make a decision or a choice on how much you want to pay and what way works best for you, and do it. Remember, you could also get on the USA bestseller list, and who wouldn't want that? Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips for our listeners right now?
Well, I would recommend that you do the bookshelf exercise as the first step to get your book done. So go into a bookstore. You can also go to Amazon. Find a bookshelf where your book should be, and then look at all the other books on that bookshelf and figure out why your book would be different. Why would the reader pick up your book that you're going to write and not the one that's already on the shelf? And once you have that, the next step is the outline. So now we're starting to get into the process, and you can either do it yourself, or you can come to me at Leaders Press and we can see how we could work together. But do that first step. Imagine your book on the bookshelves and give your readers a reason to read yours.
There you go. Can't get any better than that. Mm-hmm. Alinka Rutkowska, leaderspress.com. I thank you and appreciate you for being here today. And I hope you get lots of calls based on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me, Joanne. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Take care, everybody. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com to listen to more podcasts. Check out Joanne's coaching programs and get a free copy of her report, 5 Steps to Achieve Life-Work Harmony. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.